Sellers hand over 5 and 6 figures in equity every year, not because they priced their home wrong, but because they said yes when the buyer's request came through and they should have just shut it down right on the spot. One of these 10 things could be sitting in your contract right now, waiting to cost you thousands, delay your closing, or land you in a legal mess with strangers living in your house even before it's theirs. Most sellers think being agreeable gets the deal done faster. It doesn't. It just makes you the one holding the risk while the buyer walks away clean. I'm going to walk you through 10 things you should never agree to when selling your home, and number 5 alone has landed sellers in court time and time again. All right, you're not doing the buyer a favor when you list your house. This is a business transaction, and every time you say yes to something that shifts risk onto your plate, you're writing the check out of your own pocket. I get it. Sellers are good-hearted and they want to be helpful. But being nice doesn't pay your closing costs. Let's run through these 10 things that sound reasonable on the surface, but can turn into deal killers the second you sign off and make it your risk, not theirs. All right, let's start with number 1. Never agree to let random buyers, inspectors, or so-called neighbors into your home without your agent checking on them. You're paying your agent a lot of money to sell that house, and that means they handle access. Give them guidelines on what access you want to give them and stick to it, and make sure your agent is the one way through the door. So let them do their job. If somebody shows up at your door and wants to look around real quick, don't let them in. You don't know what they're really looking for. Are they looking at your house, or are they just looking at what they can put in their pocket? Make sure that your agent has a chance to vet them before they walk through the property. I've heard stories about sellers who watch things go missing and the people walk out the door. They've never gotten their contact information and they have no way to track them down. It's just not worth the risk. All right, let's talk about number 2. Never agree to let the buyers maneuver their oversized truck, boat, or RV into your garage just to see if it fits, because garages are tight and nerves make people stupid. I don't care how nice they are or how careful they promise to be. If they get nervous and hit the gas instead of the brake, they can run right through your wall or scratch up your door frame. And now you have to make repairs or an insurance claim right in the middle of the sale, and you're the one who has to do it. There's a thing called measuring tape, and you can measure the garage and the vehicle that they want to put in there and figure out if it fits or not right when they do their inspections. It's not on you, it's on them. Along those lines, number 3, never agree to leave the inspection window wide open past the contract and what it actually requires, because every day is wear and tear on your home while you're trying to move. In California, that default is 17 days. I like to put that back to 10 days. You don't want strangers in your house for a full 17 days. They bring designers, roof inspectors, sewer line guys, and everybody else through your living room while you're trying to pack boxes and keep the place clean. As soon as that inspection period of 10 days is up, make sure they have signed off on that contingency and get it off their plate and yours. Your house is not a museum. Let your agent draw a hard line when time is up. The buyer is still obligated to close. At some point, you have the right to say, enough is enough, lock the door, and focus on your next place instead of hosting an open house to every inspector that wanders through. Now, this one is a sneaky one. Number 4 is never agree to include your personal furniture, patio furniture, pool table, or decor in the purchase contract, because that turns a clean sale into a yard sale negotiation. A washer or fridge that isn't built in, sure, that makes sense. But when you start to throw in kitchen tools and the couch and the patio furniture, it turns into an emotional negotiation that can blow the whole deal. Buyers want your stuff for free because they figure used furniture is barely worth anything, especially if the dog has been using it as a bed. So my rule is simple. If it isn't nailed down, you don't put it in the contract. You handle it after all contingencies are removed. Number 5 is where one little yes can land you in court. I don't want you to ever hand over the keys to the buyer until the property closes and the deed records at the county in their name. It doesn't matter if their wire has already gone through, because the house is not actually in their name until it's recorded at the recorder's office. If they move in early and the husband gets laid off 2 days later, before closing, the lender can pull the loan, and now you wind up with people living in your home and they don't even own it. That turns into a tenant landlord nightmare with zero contract in place, which means you're the one holding the bag anytime anything breaks and they refuse to leave. I don't care how inconvenient their move is or how much they beg, you only hand over the keys when it's recorded. Now let's talk about the person you hire. Number 6, never agree to co-list your home or hire an agent out of obligation just because you want to avoid hurting their feelings, because your equity deserves better than a social favor. It makes no difference who they are. You're hiring somebody to protect your equity and negotiate on your behalf. And that's not a group project where one person does the work and 3 others just take the credit. It gets messy fast. 2 agents who have never worked together, who use different marketing systems, and who answer to different brokers will step on each other's toes the entire time. And if something goes sideways, you could end up stuck figuring out which brokerage house is liable while the closing gets delayed and your equity sits in limbo. Hire one professional who owns the outcome from start to finish. Now we're getting into stuff that can actually torpedo the closing. Number 7, never agree to let the buyer bring their general contractor, painter, or electrician onto the property to start work before escrow closes. That's your house and your liability until the deed is recorded. You have no idea if the contractor is licensed, insured, or careful. If they fall through the roof or do unpermitted work and the deal falls through, you're stuck with a half-finished renovation and a lawsuit waiting to happen. Let them wait until the place is actually theirs. That leads me right into number 8. Never agree to accept an offer until you know exactly how the buyer is paying and that the lender is real. Fake pre-approval letters are everywhere now. Anyone can create one with AI, and it looks just like it came from Wells Fargo or Bank of America, which means you cannot trust a piece of paper anymore. You or your agent need to pick up the phone, call the lender, and ask how fast they are getting a full loan approval, because a slow lender can drag your escrow out for no reason. Right now, they should be about 12 to 14 days. You also want to see proof of funds for the down payment. If the buyer can't show you where that cash is coming from, you don't have a real deal. You're basically gambling 30 days of your life and your home's equity every single time. Number 9, never agree to contingent offers unless you know exactly who the buyer's buyer is and how reasonable their escrow is going. It happens all the time that things fall through on that end and just shoot your deal right in the foot. I see sellers take their homes off the market because a buyer claims they need to sell their current home first, but this house is not even listed or it's been sitting for months with no activity. That's way too risky for your deal. If your buyer's buyer is also contingent on someone else, you end up with this chain of maybes that can collapse in a heartbeat and leave you right back at square one with a stale house on the market. Know the full chain or walk away because you don't want to be the last domino. All right, number 10, never agree to a long 60 to 90 day or even 120 day escrow unless you have a rock solid reason written into the contract and backed up by real documentation. I don't care how good it looks. Most of the time, the buyer is trying to time the market and sell their own place, which means they don't actually have the money locked down. And they're using the house as a safety net while they figure out what to do with their own personal mess. That is not your problem. The longer your house sits in escrow, the more Murphy's Law kicks in. You can get a slab leak, interest rates jump, the buyer can lose their job or change their mind overnight. It happens more than you think, and there's nothing that kills deals more than time. I've seen escrows drag out for 90 days, and then the buyer's financing falls through at the last second because something changed on their end, and they didn't tell their lender. Now the house has been off the market for 3 months and buyers start wondering what is wrong with the property, which it actually isn't your fault. It's just that you're in an escrow that makes it look like there's something wrong with your property. If they need that much time, you need to know exactly why and make them pay for it. That's just business sense and common sense. That's how you keep your equity where it belongs, right in your pocket. If you want more business sense and common sense for your next move, go ahead and subscribe and look for those tips and tricks. I drop videos every week. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.